Today, we are diving into an essential Dart concept, name versus optional positional parameters. If you ever wondered when and why to use this, then stick around because we are breaking it all down with simple examples. Ready? Let's go. Alright, parameters are the values that we pass into the functions to customize their behavior. In Dart, we have two types of parameter. First one is the name parameter and second one is the optional positional parameters. Now let's start with name parameters. Name parameters are super useful when we want our code to be more readable and avoid the confusion about what each parameter represents. So here is an example how it looks in code. Here we have a simple Dart program which has two functions, main and greet. Greet function accepts two parameters, string name and integer age. Now to convert these two parameters into name parameter, we just have to wrap these two parameters into curly braces like this. Okay, and after adding the curly braces, we are seeing some errors. If we look at the error, the parameter name can't have a value of null because of its type, but the implicit default value is null. And we are seeing this error because the name parameters are by default optional and its default value is null. And currently our parameters string name and integer age can't receive a null value. So to fix this, we just have to add a question mark over here like this, and the error is gone. By adding this question mark, name and age parameters are now nullable. So they can accept a null value. And if I go to the main function and add the greet function like this, and if I run this function, the name and age will receive a null value. To verify this, let's run this. And as we can see in the output, we are receiving hello null, you are null years old. Now to change this default value from null to something else, we can use equal to sign over here and pass a default value like this. We can remove this question mark. Now we don't need this. For age, let's specify a default value of 17. Okay. The only thing that we need to make sure while passing this default value is that the value must be a compile time constant. Okay. That is the only thing we need to make sure. And now if I run this, the name will receive a value of John and age will receive a value of 17. To verify this, let's run this function. And as we can see in the output, we are receiving hello John, you are 17 years old. Okay. And if I want to make this name parameter as a required parameter, and I want to make sure that when someone calls this greet function, they can't pass a null value for the name parameter, then I can annotate this name parameter with required keyword. I can remove this default value, and we are getting now an error over here where we are calling this greet function because the name parameter is now a required parameter. We have to pass a value to this parameter in order to call this greet function like this. Okay, and now the error is gone. So this is how the name parameter works. There are few benefits of name parameter. First one is clarity. With name parameter, it's easy to understand what value we are passing to which parameter. And the second one is defaults. Default values of name parameter prevent the null errors and make our function more robust. Next, we have optional positional parameters. These are super useful when we want our parameters to be optional but still maintain a particular order. Here is an example how it looks in code. Here we have a greet function but now with different parameters: string name, string title and string suffix. These three parameters are called as positional parameters. It's because when I call this greet function inside main function, first I have to pass the value to the name parameter, then to the title parameter, and lastly to the suffix parameter. I can't pass value to the title parameter or the suffix parameter first before the name parameter. Here, the order of the parameter is very important. So because of that, these parameters are called as positional parameters. Now let's make title and suffix as optional parameters. So to make title and suffix as optional parameter, we have to wrap these two parameters inside square bracket like this. And now we can say that the title and the suffix are optional positional parameters. But wait, after adding the square brackets, we are seeing some errors. So let's go through the error. The parameter title can't have a value of null because of its type, but the implicit default value is null. Again, the same error. The optional parameter have a default value of null, and currently the title and suffix can't accept null values. So to fix this, we just have to add a question mark over here like we did it before. And now the title and suffix can accept null value. Those are now nullable data types. And now if I run this program, we can see hello Dr. Charlie PhD. So for title and suffix, we are getting the values as doctor and PhD respectively. But what if I remove these values that we are passing it over here and now run the program? Then in that case, we are seeing hello null Charlie null. So we are getting the null value for title and suffix, which are the default values for the optional parameters. To change this null value to something else, we can use the equal to syntax like we did it before. Over here, we can use equal to and specify the default value like this. Can remove this question mark. Let's specify the default value for suffix as well. Okay. And now if I run this, we can see the same output. Hello, Mr. Charlie, PhD. The only thing that we need to make sure while specifying this default value is that this value must be compile time constant. So this is how the optional positional parameter works in Dart. There are some advantages and disadvantages of optional positional parameter. Let's go through advantages first. First one, it's short and sweet. Optional positional parameters are perfect for simple functions where arguments are straightforward. Second one is the consistency. In optional positional parameters, the arguments are passed in the correct order, making it easy to debug and maintain the code. Now let's go through disadvantages. First one, lack of flexibility. If we use optional positional parameters, then it can be challenging to modify or extend the function if the argument structure changes. And second, ambiguity. It can be difficult to understand the exact meaning of each argument if the function have multiple values. Now, the big question is, when should you use name versus optional positional parameters? You can use name parameters where clarity and flexibility are your top priorities. For example, in public functions or in APIs where name parameters can provide better readability. And you can use optional parameters where simplicity and the order of the parameter is very important. For example, small utility functions where parameter role is obvious. Next, here are some quick tips. First one, always mark critical name parameters as required to avoid runtime error. Second, always use default values for name and optional positional parameters to make your function more robust. And third, avoid mixing too many positional and name arguments in a single function because it can get very confusing. So here is a quick recap. In Dart, we have two types of parameter, name parameters and optional positional parameters. For name parameters, there are 4 key points. First, use curly braces. Second, order does not matter. Third, we can set default value. And fourth, they make code easier to read. For optional positional parameters, again we have 4 key points. First, we use square bracket. Second, order is very important in optional positional parameter. Third, we can set default value. And fourth, they are suitable for simple functions. And there you have it, a clear overview between name and optional positional parameters in Dart. Which one do you prefer using and why? Let me know in the comment section below. And I hope you found this video helpful. If you want to learn more about Dart and Flutter, check out my Flutter and Dart playlist. Until next time, keep coding, keep learning, and I will see you in the next video. Happy coding!